So today in the Landscape Lowdown, we are going to talk about how to tell if your plant is dead. So there's two different things I want to discuss today: woody perennials and herbaceous perennials. So woody perennials, it's pretty easy to check. You just take your branch, the very end of the stem of your shrub or your tree, and you look for that tender growth, and you just scrape it a little bit with your fingernail or a knife, and you just check to see if there's any green on the inside layer. So that is the number one way to check to see if a woody perennial is still alive. The second thing I'm going to talk about is herbaceous perennials. So herbaceous perennials are a little bit more difficult to check for viability. But the number one thing is that they're actually typically not dead, actually. Oftentimes they're just dead flower stalks on them or something along those lines. It actually can be cut back, and that'll actually promote more blooms. And that can happen throughout the season depending on what type of plant it is. And also in the early spring, when your landscape is emerging, some plants emerge earlier than others. So that is the other thing. You want to make sure that you know your plants in that way. So sometimes certain plants will take longer to get to a mature state than others in the season. So with that being said, ornamental grasses are a perfect example. A lot of times those are warm season grasses, and they actually take a long time to really get up and moving. And so we'll see those happen more in the later end of the spring into the early summer. So those are always going to be something that comes in late. And there's other perennials that do that as well. So you just want to keep that in mind as you're looking at viability in the perennials. The same thing goes in the fall. Sometimes there's dead flower stalks. That is another thing that you might want to just cut those back in the fall and get them ready for the spring. That way when they come up in the spring, you don't have to mess with them. You don't have to mess with dead debris that's been sitting around for all winter under the snow or, getting wet. And then you forget about it too sometimes. So that can be helped in the spring to promote more growth in the spring. So those are the two ways you want to check viability in your plants. Woody perennials, scrape that bark back a little bit on the end stem, and then in the herbaceous perennials, you'll want to just keep an eye on them, make sure that there's green growth at the base before you say it's dead. There's actually a lot of times it's still alive. There's just some dead stuff on the top that needs to be cut off. If you have any questions or comments or would like to add to this, comment below.